In the unforgiving deserts of Arabia, where sandstorms and bloodshed were as common as the scorching sun, one man rose to become a living legend. His name, whispered in awe and fear across battlefields, would forever be etched into the annals of history. His victories were unmatched, his strategies brilliant beyond imagination. Yet it wasn't just his military genius that earned him the title of the Sword of Allah. No, it was his unwavering faith, his dedication to a cause greater than himself, that made him one of the most formidable warriors the world has ever known. This is the story of Khalid Ibn Walid, the man who never knew defeat, the warrior who struck terror into the hearts of his enemies, and the hero who stood by his beliefs, no matter the cost. But behind his battles, his victories, and his death-defying courage lies a journey that few truly understand. Prepare yourself to uncover the untold story of the Sword of Allah as we step into the life of Khalid Ibn Walid, the man who changed the course of history. Early life and background: Khalid Ibn Walid was born in 592 CE into the powerful and influential tribe of Banu Makhzum, one of the most esteemed families in Mecca. The family name was synonymous with wealth, power, and nobility. Yet it was Khalid himself who would elevate the name to a level that would be remembered for centuries. His father, Walid ibn al-Mughira, was a respected leader of the Quraysh tribe. He was a wealthy merchant and an influential figure in Meccan society. His mother, who remains less recorded in history, was known for her nurturing strength and wisdom. The family's wealth and position meant that young Khalid would grow up surrounded by privilege, but it was the desert's harshness and the warrior spirit that ran deep in his bloodline that truly shaped him. From an early age, Khalid displayed the traits of a natural-born leader: his sharp mind, physical strength, and exceptional skills with weapons. His early training wasn't merely about learning how to fight. It was about understanding the art of war, the psychology of battle, and the strategies that would make him an unrivaled commander on the battlefield. As the son of a prominent family, Khalid was privy to the best education available. The desert tribes were known for their fierce loyalty, intricate alliances, and complex military strategies. The men of his tribe often gathered to discuss tactics, and young Khalid absorbed every detail, his eyes alight with the fire of ambition. Khalid was not just a student of the mind, but of the body. His physical prowess on horseback, in hand-to-hand combat, and with the sword was legendary even before he reached adulthood. His strength, endurance, and unmatched speed became qualities that set him apart from the other warriors of his tribe. By his early 20s, Khalid had already earned the respect of his tribe and beyond. He was becoming known not just for his skill in combat, but for his leadership qualities that would define him for the rest of his life. But Khalid's journey wasn't just about personal glory or seeking fame. It was about the larger political struggle of his time. Mecca was a city of merchants, but also a city of conflict and power struggles. The Quraysh tribe was at the center of this political turmoil, and Khalid's future would be shaped not only by his own ambition, but by the growing tensions between his tribe and the rising influence of Islam. As the newly established Muslim community began to challenge the status quo, Khalid found himself at a crossroads. His loyalty to his tribe and his father's legacy placed him in opposition to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his followers. What he didn't know was that soon, this conflict would lead to one of the greatest transformations of his life: pre-Islamic era and initial involvement in battles. Before he was known as the Sword of Allah, Khalid Ibn Walid was a fearsome warrior in the service of his tribe. Raised among the greatest military minds of his time, he was destined to carve his name into the history books as one of the most legendary commanders the world would ever know. But before all that glory, he was a man bound by loyalty to his tribe, the Quraysh, and their interests in the turbulent world of pre-Islamic Arabia. During this period, Arabia was a land of constant warfare. Tribes clashed over honor, resources, and control of trade routes. The Quraysh were at the heart of this conflict, a powerful tribe that dominated Mecca with their wealth, military might, and control over the sacred Kaaba. But despite their strength, the Quraysh were constantly challenged by rival tribes. One of Khalid's first notable battles was the Battle of the Fijr, fought in his youth. Though young, he proved himself to be a formidable fighter, showing incredible bravery and military instinct. The battle was a defining moment, laying the foundation for Khalid's reputation as a warrior who could be trusted to lead in times of war. However, it was in the Battle of Uhud that Khalid's military genius truly came to the forefront. The battle, which would come to define his early career, was a fierce clash between the Quraysh and the Muslims. Despite his immense skill and determination, the Quraysh faced defeat, but Khalid's tactical brilliance was undeniable. It was here that he made a decisive move to attack the Muslim flank, turning the tide of battle at a critical moment. Though the battle was lost by the Quraysh, Khalid's role in the tactical retreat was pivotal. His ability to read the battlefield, his deep understanding of strategy, and his quick thinking in moments of chaos made him one of the most respected military leaders of his time. His name was now known far beyond Mecca. His reputation as a strategist who could outmaneuver his enemies was beginning to spread. However, despite his success on the battlefield, Khalid's allegiances remained firm to his tribe. The rise of Islam posed a direct threat to the Quraysh's authority, and Khalid was among the warriors who fought against the early Muslims, believing that their message would disrupt the established order. At the Battle of Badr, Khalid led the Quraysh cavalry against the Muslim forces. The battle ended in a devastating defeat for the Quraysh, shaking their confidence and forcing Khalid to reassess the direction of their struggle. Yet, his resolve remained unbroken. He would go on to command more campaigns, seeking to crush the growing Muslim movement. Khalid's leadership was not just based on his physical prowess, it was his intelligence, adaptability, and unmatched battlefield tactics that made him stand out. He understood the importance of morale, the timing of attacks, and the need to strike at the most vulnerable points of his enemies. His enemies would soon learn that to face Khalid was to face a mind that could see many moves ahead. His successes continued, and the battles mounted. Yet, despite his victories and renown, Khalid's soul was locked in a struggle between his deep loyalty to his tribe and the growing wave of Islam that could not be ignored. 4. Conversion to Islam. By the time Khalid Ibn Walid had tasted both victory and defeat, his heart had already begun to wrestle with a growing conflict, a war within himself that would soon lead him to the most significant decision of his life. Khalid had fought the Muslims with unmatched fervor, believing their message to be a threat to the very fabric of his world. Yet, despite his relentless campaigns, something began to stir in him, a feeling that perhaps the truth was not as black and white as he once thought. In the silence of the desert nights, amid the firelit shadows, he began to question. It wasn't just the defeats he had witnessed, nor the growing strength of the Muslims, but something more, a deep stirring in his heart. Khalid's mind, sharp as a sword, had always been his greatest weapon, and now it turned to the new faith that had spread like wildfire across Arabia. It was not an immediate decision, nor a moment of sudden conversion. Khalid had heard of the message of Islam from others, heard the call to faith in Allah and the words of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The teachings of peace, justice, and unity began to echo in his mind. He had seen the Muslims' unshakable conviction, their unity, and their resolve in the face of adversity, and it stirred something within him. But what truly began to change Khalid was not just what he heard, it was what he saw. He witnessed the Muslims' sincerity, the unwavering faith of those who had nothing but trust in Allah. It was a faith that seemed unbreakable, despite the trials they faced. After years of being an enemy of Islam, Khalid knew that this was not just another tribal conflict. This was a force far greater than any battle he had ever fought, a force that had the power to change the course of history. And as the Muslims continued to gain strength, Khalid was torn between loyalty to his tribe and the undeniable truth of Islam. It was at this pivotal moment that Khalid's heart could no longer deny the truth. His search for meaning, for righteousness, led him to a moment of clarity. He took the step that would forever alter the course of his life. Khalid Ibn Walid, the sword of the Quraysh, would now raise his sword in the name of Islam. In a single, decisive moment, Khalid's loyalty to his tribe was replaced by an even greater loyalty, one to Allah and his messenger. The same sword that had once been used against the Muslims would now defend the faith he had come to believe in with all his heart. His conversion to Islam wasn't just a personal change, it was the beginning of a new chapter for the Muslim community itself. Khalid Ibn Walid, the legendary warrior, was now a champion of Islam, a man whose military genius would play an essential role in the expansion of the faith. Khalid Ibn Walid, the sword of Allah, was reborn, not in the heat of battle or in the clash of swords, but in the peace that comes from surrendering to the truth of Allah's will. His legacy would now be intertwined with the rise of Islam, and he would go on to become one of its most formidable defenders. Military genius. Khalid Ibn Walid's campaigns. From the moment Khalid Ibn Walid embraced Islam, he became not only a champion of faith, but also a master strategist whose military brilliance would shape the future of the Muslim empire. Known for his ability to turn the tide of battle with daring tactics and an unwavering resolve, Khalid's campaigns became legendary. His military genius was immediately apparent after his conversion. Khalid did not simply fight with brute force, he fought with the mind of a master tactician. His first taste of leading Muslim forces came during the Battle of Mu'tah, where he would prove that his expertise was unmatched. At Mu'tah, the Muslim forces were vastly outnumbered by the Byzantine army. Most of the Muslim commanders fell early in the battle, and Khalid was appointed as the new leader. Against overwhelming odds, Khalid restructured the battlefield, reorganizing the forces, and masterminded a brilliant tactical retreat that saved the Muslim army from total annihilation. His ability to control the battlefield, even in the face of defeat, earned him the admiration of both his troops and his enemies. But it wasn't just about surviving battles, it was about winning them decisively. Khalid's tactics, often unconventional, became his trademark. One of his most famous strategies was his use of the cavalry, which he commanded with unmatched skill. His cavalry was not merely for flanking or charging, it was an unstoppable force that could strike at any point of the enemy's formation and leave them disoriented and vulnerable. The Battle of Yarmouk, one of the defining moments of Khalid's career, would solidify his status as one of the greatest military commanders in history. The Byzantine Empire, desperate to reclaim the lands they had lost, gathered an enormous army to crush the Muslim forces. Despite facing one of the largest military forces of the time, Khalid, with a much smaller army, turned the tide of the battle in a matter of days. At Yarmouk, Khalid used the terrain to his advantage, trapping the Byzantine army between the rugged landscape and his forces. His use of deception, creating false movements and confusing the enemy, broke their morale. What followed was a victory that shocked the world. The Byzantine forces were forced to retreat, and the Muslims claimed a decisive victory, securing their hold over Syria and establishing their dominance in the region. Khalid's military mind was not only strategic, but also adaptive. He would assess the strengths and weaknesses of his enemies, exploiting any vulnerability he found. But it wasn't just about defeating enemies, it was about shaping the future. Khalid knew that every battle won brought the Muslim Empire one step closer to unifying the Arabian Peninsula and spreading the message of Islam. In every battle, from the Battle of Qadisiyah to the Siege of Damascus, Khalid employed his signature tactics: speed, surprise, and overwhelming force. He made the battlefield his domain, and his enemies knew that to face him was to face a force that could not be easily defeated. His reputation spread far and wide, and soon, even his enemies feared his name. But it wasn't just his victories that earned him respect. It was his discipline, his leadership, and his devotion to his faith. For Khalid, every victory was not just a personal triumph, but a step in the larger mission of spreading Islam across the lands. Khalid Ibn Walid, the Sword of Allah, became more than just a commander. He became a symbol of courage, honor, and tactical genius, a man who could turn the course of history with a single stroke of his sword. Though his battles were legendary, it was the strategic brilliance of Khalid that would echo through the centuries, a testament to the power of a mind that could see beyond the battlefield. His campaigns did not just change the course of military history, they helped shape the very future of the Muslim Empire. Leadership and legacy. Khalid Ibn Walid was not just a military commander, he was a leader of unparalleled vision, whose influence extended far beyond the battlefield. As the Sword of Allah, his leadership wasn't defined by the number of battles he won, but by the way he inspired his men, the way he carried himself with humility, and the way he shaped the course of history. To lead men into battle takes courage, but to lead them with conviction, to earn their trust, and to fight beside them as equals, this is what set Khalid apart. His leadership style was not that of a distant general issuing commands from behind the lines. He led by example. His soldiers followed him not out of fear, but out of deep respect and unwavering loyalty. Khalid's leadership was grounded in wisdom. He understood that a leader's duty was not just to give orders, but to listen to the land, to his soldiers, and to the pulse of the moment. He would often seek counsel from those around him, carefully weighing every option before making a decision. But when the time came, he acted with unwavering decisiveness. His soldiers trusted him because they knew he never acted impulsively. Every move was calculated, every battle planned with precision. One of Khalid's most remarkable traits was his ability to instill courage in his troops, even in the face of overwhelming odds. He knew that leadership was not just about military tactics, but about inspiring confidence and unity. His presence alone was enough to ignite a fire within his men. They knew that as long as Khalid led them, victory was within their grasp. Khalid's strategic brilliance, combined with his understanding of human nature, made him an unparalleled leader. But perhaps his most enduring legacy lies in the way he balanced power with humility. Despite his legendary victories, Khalid was never one to seek personal glory. His loyalty was always to Islam, to the Ummah, and to his mission. It was the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who first recognized Khalid's potential, declaring him the Sword of Allah. This title was not just a reflection of his battlefield prowess, but a testament to his unwavering commitment to the faith. The Prophet saw in Khalid not just a warrior, but a man whose loyalty and leadership would help spread Islam across the world. Khalid's legacy wasn't confined to the bloodshed of battle, it extended to the lives he touched along the way. As the Muslim forces conquered new lands, Khalid ensured that the people were treated with fairness and dignity. His leadership style was rooted in justice. He sought not to impose tyranny, but to bring about peace and unity. Under his command, the lands he conquered flourished, and the message of Islam spread far and wide. As the years passed and the world changed, Khalid's name became synonymous with leadership, courage, and selflessness. His military genius continued to influence commanders and strategists for centuries, while his character served as a model for leaders to come. He was not a leader who sought personal gain, but one who sought only the greater good. Even in the face of adversity, even in the moments when his body ached from battle and the world seemed on the brink of collapse, Khalid Ibn Walid remained steadfast, a man of faith, a man of integrity. His leadership was a beacon, guiding not only his troops but future generations who would look to his life as a shining example of what true leadership means. Khalid Ibn Walid's legacy is not just one of victory on the battlefield, it is a legacy of honor, integrity, and sacrifice for the greater cause. The Sword of Allah carved a path through history, leaving behind a trail of lessons that resonate to this day. His name will forever echo in the annals of history, a testament to the power of faith, the strength of leadership, and the courage to follow the truth no matter the cost. The final years and death as the flames of war began to fade, and the Muslim empire expanded beyond the deserts of Arabia, Khalid Ibn Walid, the Sword of Allah, found himself at the crossroads of his own journey, a journey that had seen countless victories, yet now faced the inevitable passage of time. His final years would not be marked by the glory of battle, but by a profound reflection on the life he had lived and the ultimate price that even the greatest warriors must pay. Having led the Muslim armies to countless victories, Khalid Ibn Walid had become a living legend, a man whose name was synonymous with triumph. Yet, as the years wore on, Khalid's role in battle began to diminish. His military expertise remained unmatched, but the days of warfare and conquest were slipping away. In his final years, Khalid no longer sought the adrenaline of war. Instead, he focused on the consolidation of what had been gained, the establishment of the Islamic Empire. His military campaigns had not only expanded the reach of Islam, but also laid the foundation for a flourishing civilization. Yet, as Khalid looked to the future, he found himself yearning for something different, something deeper. It was not the blade of an enemy that would finally end Khalid's journey, but the slow, inevitable march of illness. Despite having never been defeated in battle, Khalid, the Sword of Allah, found himself in the grips of sickness, a reminder that even the greatest warriors are not invincible. The once unstoppable force who had charged through the fiercest of battles now lay weakened, unable to continue the fight. In his final moments, Khalid, ever the leader, was surrounded by those who had fought by his side, those who had witnessed his brilliance and courage firsthand. It is said that, even in his last days, his thoughts were of his people, his faith, and the legacy he would leave behind. Though he lay on his deathbed, his mind was still sharp, his heart still burning with the same passion that had driven him to victory after victory. Khalid Ibn Walid passed away in 642 CE, far from the battlefields that had been the stage of his legendary triumphs. And yet, his death, unlike those of many other warriors, was not marked by regret or sorrow. Instead, Khalid is said to have died with a smile on his face, content in the knowledge that he had fought not for personal glory, but for the spread of a cause greater than himself. As Khalid lay on his deathbed, he is famously quoted as saying, "I have fought in more battles than I can count, and yet I die in my bed like a coward." But this humble reflection reveals the depth of his character. Khalid's greatest fear was not death, it was the thought of having failed in the eyes of his Lord. But to those who had fought beside him, Khalid's legacy would never be tarnished. He had fought with honor, and his name would forever echo in the hearts of those who believed in his cause. Though Khalid Ibn Walid passed away, his influence did not end with his death. His leadership, his courage, and his unwavering faith left an indelible mark on the history of Islam and the world. His name became synonymous with victory, but his true legacy was in the hearts of the generations he inspired, a legacy that would shape the course of history for centuries to come. Today, centuries after his death, Khalid Ibn Walid is still remembered as one of the greatest military commanders in history. His legacy is immortalized not only in the victories he achieved, but in the way he led, inspired, and changed the course of history. The Sword of Allah may have been sheathed, but his spirit lives on in the hearts of all who strive for greatness, for justice, and for the cause of truth. Conclusion: Khalid Ibn Walid's story is one of unparalleled courage, unyielding faith, and unmatched military brilliance. From the battlefields of the Arabian desert to the farthest reaches of the Islamic Empire, his name became a symbol of victory and strength. But beyond the glory of battle, Khalid's true legacy lies in his integrity, his humility, and the unwavering commitment he had to the cause he believed in. The Sword of Allah was not just a title, it was a reflection of the man who wielded it, a man whose life continues to inspire millions. His story reminds us that greatness is not defined by the battles we fight, but by the impact we leave on the world and the lives we touch along the way. Khalid Ibn Walid's life is a testament to the power of leadership, resilience, and the belief that no matter how difficult the journey, a man's faith and principles can guide him to greatness. Now, as we reflect on the life of Khalid Ibn Walid, we must ask ourselves, what will be our legacy? What will we leave behind in the world? Are we ready to stand for something greater than ourselves, just as Khalid did? If Khalid's journey has inspired you, if his unwavering dedication to a greater cause has sparked something within you, then let his legacy be a reminder of what is possible when you combine courage, faith, and purpose. To dive deeper into the extraordinary life of Khalid Ibn Walid and explore how his story can inspire your own journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join us as we uncover more powerful stories from history, and together, let's continue the pursuit of knowledge, honor, and greatness.